Hello, 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 hello. Hope you are doing well. This is going to be a fun message, and it started getting like freezing here. So you got to have all the layers on, and you mean business when your hair is constantly up, right? Okay. So today I want to talk about contentment. And I promise you, if you get this one, if you really absorb this and practice this in your daily practice time, this will truly change your life in the best way. And it will free up a ton of energy as well. And if you're jumping through, the daily practice is all about creating that space for you to just get alone with God. Yes, you can stay in constant contact with Him throughout the day, but it's also important to set aside more non negotiable God time for you and God to just get connected, to sit and listen before God, to just let His presence refresh you. So many beautiful things can come out of that. So today I want to talk about contentment and kind of merge into something exciting. Okay. Well, I think it's exciting. Maybe you will too. All right. So when I got this verse, it was just like for me. It's actually coming from Philippians 4:12, and it says, "I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want." New Living Translation says it like this: "I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little." And then there's one more. Amplified Version says it this way: "I know how to get along and live humbly in difficult times. And I also know how to enjoy abundance and live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing life, whether well fed or going hungry, whether having an abundance or being in need." So, this is the Apostle Paul, and what he is describing, what he's articulating, and what has been brought to the surface in these other versions is that he has experienced life. He knows what it is to have nothing, and he knows what it's like to have everything, but he knows how to really be content in any and in every situation. So I remember reading that and I was like, oh man, like if that's the goal, like I'm not there yet. Like when I was first reading that, I'm like, I have a long way to go, right? Because I had always been, it was just how I was wired. I was a doer, I was an achiever, I was, constantly like looking on the next thing, couldn't even like sit in what is. I was just like constantly like after things and pursuing things, which is great in its own right. But I didn't have the balance of being still and knowing God and just being content, right? Like there was this sense of urgency or this need or this desire to be on to the next all the time, right? Which to me, what I found was when I dug this up and did a lot of my inner work, coaching is my background. So, working with coaches, working with therapists, whatever it might be, when I started doing my inner work and excavating my soul, I found that that was rooted in fear, right? This like urgency or this need to figure things out was me trying to control my life so that I could be in a better position, which stemmed from childhood when things were wildly out of control and constantly up in the air, which was a really hard experience. And there was multiple seasons like that. So that was something that became a pattern, right? And it became a survival mode, if you will. So even when I didn't have to be living in that, I still was with me. So when I read this, we are transformed by the renewing of our mind. When I read this and it started to really hit my spirit, I was like, what am I doing exactly? Like maybe I can slow down. Maybe I can sit with this. Maybe this can be true. Maybe that is the secret to fulfillment. I can be content no matter what, right? And if I were content no matter what, let me just try it on for a minute. If I were content no matter what, how would I respond to life differently? How would I show up in relationships differently? How would I navigate circumstances and situations differently if I were content, right? maybe I could accept it for what it is, or maybe I could really see what God is doing in that situation without putting my impression on it or like putting my perceived meaning on it, right? Maybe I'd be more open to how God is moving, right? Who knows, right? But I would probably get a different outcome than if I feel like I got to figure it out and if I have to make things happen all the time. Right? Or if what I have is not enough. Like that is never a way to live because then you go into almost Ecclesiastes level where it's all life is vanity, right? And so where is the balance, right? And if there are all these different seasons, how do you not like cling on to one and make sure you advance into the next one or like get stuck in one? You know what I mean? Have a hard time letting it go without moving into the wonderful new contentment. Contentment. So I often do this and I encourage you to do something similar if you are led to, but I am a word nerd. So I love looking up words and finding synonyms or a different way that the word is said because it might strike me different and it might hit my spirit different. So contentment by the dictionary is defined as a state. So it's something that we can choose. It's something that we can get to, similar to joy, to peace, a state of happiness and satisfaction. So it is a choice to be dissatisfied, to be unhappy. I can choose that state and I can choose to stay in that state as long as I want. Now we get in trouble when we don't think that we have that kind of authority, but we do. Okay. So, let me see. Seeing if there's synonyms here. Satisfaction, fulfillment, happiness, pleasure, cheerfulness, gratification, ease, love that one. Peace, tranquility, serenity, comfort. Yeah. So good. So that can really be helpful. Like, how can I get back to contentment? So, in a moment where I feel agitated, or in a moment where I feel overwhelmed, or in a moment where I'm sensing myself trying to push or to try to like control something, how can I get back to that place of being contentment? Like, ooh, like that's not God's spirit driving me because the word says that God leads in ways of pleasantness and peace. So, this force, this pressure, this hustle is not God. That's the world. Okay. And that might have worked before God, but now that I'm with God, I want to be able to rest in Him as I move. With me? So, when it comes to contentment, what I found is that stability releases ability. So, I'm going to break this down for you today. This is the fun part. So, Psalm 62:8 teaches us that we are to have faith in God all the time, not just once in a while, but in all times. So, we need to learn from faith to faith. And it talks about that in Romans 1:17. Trusting in God when things are good and when things are bad. That's where that contentment comes from. So this situation can look some kind of way, but that doesn't have to make me shift some kind of way, right? Or I could feel like I'm making the right choice and then I could be encountered with a challenge that makes me question. I don't have to question. I'm going to trust that I made the right choice and know that it's going to work itself out and that God has a plan. He has a solution before I ever had a problem. And that's what I'm going to focus on. And that's what I'm going to align with, right? So it's easy. This is the thing, similar to the other day with the sacrifice of praise. Like it's easy to praise or to give thanks when like life is going well and all the blessings are flowing, but it's really difficult when you hit a really hard challenge or there's a loss or you're encountering grief and a lot of discouragement and disappointment or you're in a depressed state. It is hard, which is why there's a sacrifice involved to praise. This is similar. It is hard to be content when your world feels like it's all up in the air, right? And it's easy to trust God when things are going well and when it's working out for you, right? But when things are not going well, we develop character by trusting God in our difficult situations. You may have found this to be true. And if you've not tried it, I encourage you to try it. But God's power shows up strong in our weakness. Different things in our character, when we're tested, we start to see them. We start to see moods. We start to see attitudes of our heart. We start seeing what's been stored up there because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. So what we start talking about, what we start ruminating on, it's revealing what's in us, which if we weren't facing a situation or a circumstance, we might not see that come up. So We can develop character by trusting God in difficult situations. And the more character we develop, the more our ability, God's power in and through us, can be released, right? So that is why I'm saying stability, and it comes from being in a state of peace and contentment, releases ability. Okay. And the more stable we become, the more our ability will be released because God will know that He can trust us. So good. So if we continue to have like fits or temper tantrums and just lose it when something doesn't go our way, we're not ready, right, for more power because we might be reckless with it. So many people have gifts that can take them where their character cannot keep them or sustain them. So, for example, getting the job, being given a platform, all these things might not be blessings if you don't have the character to do what's required. Not a fun time. So, gifts are given to us, but character is developed. And it's developed in dark places, it's developed in difficult times, it's developed when we don't feel good and like developing it. But it's where our power is going to inevitably come from. When we develop our character, when we become more stable in our soul and less agitated, right? Then we can release God's power. So, how do we do this? I want you to just think through today what it looks like to discipline your emotions, moods, your mouth, all of that. That is the answer to becoming stable enough to remain peaceful, whatever the situation or circumstance might be, so that you can walk in the fruit of the Spirit. Okay, so you can even look up the fruit of the Spirit or do a study on that too. So we choose basically disciplining our emotions, our moods, our attitudes, our mouth, what we're saying, what we're thinking. We use discipline or the fruit of the Spirit, which is self-control, to discipline our mind, to not just accept every thought that we're thinking, to not just say everything we can say, right? To not let a mood derail our entire day. We actually exercise the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of self-control, so that we determine to choose peace and to remain at peace. That is a choice, right? Whether we feel like it or not. And so the more stable we become, which is more opportunities to do that and practice that, right? The more ability can be released to us. So when we choose to produce the fruit of the Spirit by the power of the Holy Spirit, by faith through grace, divine enablement, we release God's power into these situations where we could have just reacted or shown up in some kind of way that we regret later. So the encouragement today, the invitation today is to desire and pursue stability in every area of your life so that God's ability can be released in and through you. And the gateway for that is to practice contentment and peace in every circumstance and in every situation. So I invite you to take a situation, a circumstance, a relationship, whatever is being highlighted to you, and lay it at the feet of Jesus and just pray for peace around the situation. Pray for God to reveal it to you in a different way. God, I'm willing to see this differently. Pray for eyes to see, ears to hear. Pray for God's peace to overtake you and overwhelm you. Pray for the ability to be content in the situation and to navigate it by His power, and for His power to be revealed in and through you. In Jesus' name. All right. So I encourage you to take this into your time today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.